Okay, now we're going to take a look at challenges. We're going to look at what is a challenge-based coaching approach, why might it be useful for player development, and how to build and use effective challenges. Okay, a task for you to kick off. What is a challenge? Can you define this in a sentence? And how does it relate to working or coaching young players? Please spend 5 minutes discussing this task in small groups or making notes individually. Okay, when designing challenges, it's important to bear in mind the following 4 areas. Centrally, the match instinct, those realistic skills that the player will need in a match environment, as well as their skill development in terms of their technical abilities, the context of is this within a technical practice, skill practice or game, and which particular environment. Is it within a grassroots environment, a development environment or an elite environment, and the development of their decision-making skills. Okay, why might this approach be useful in player development? The setting of challenges can help us wrap up 2 or 3 key points for the player in one particular challenge. So an example of this be, can you try and scan and check your shoulder and play forward as often as you can? The challenges you set will be personalised and based on the individual player's needs. This approach also allows players to be creative because often there's an open-ended challenge, but the coach given some direction and some boundaries. It allows us to scaffold and build a player's learning, so we can set introductory challenges and then build them towards the player improving on their individual development needs. The language used is also thought-provoking. So can you try to? Can you give this an attempt? Can you have a go at this? And it also, with the freedom associated with setting challenges, it links to the principle of play and the principle of repetitive practice, with the coach being a guiding influence. Let's look at challenges in more detail. So challenges can be a framework to guide learning. They can be broad or narrow. They can have implementations on creativity. They can be associated with risk-taking. And they can develop a sense of problem-solving and decision-making. Challenges can also pull together the key technical information you're trying to help the player improve with. An example of this would be, can the deep line midfield player see the number 10 before they receive the ball? So as I receive the ball, or the ball's coming towards me, I scan and check my shoulder to see the number 10. Then I take my first touch, knowing where that number 10 is. So this information would be, can you get on the right angle to receive? Can you have an open body? And can you scan the pitch and check your shoulder? So the challenge you set that player would be, can you try to recognise when a pass forward into the advanced pockets between lines is available? So can you recognise when to pass forward into pockets of space? Breaking lines with your pass. Okay, now we're going to look at how to build effective challenges. Things we need to consider first. The club or your personal coaching philosophy. So they should fit within the philosophy you're working under, from a club point of view and from your individual coaching point of view. It's also important to bear in mind the principles of play. So those basic tactical concepts that we've covered previously. The age group you're working with, so the challenges you set need to be age appropriate. Can you set individual, unit and team challenges? Can they be based on the player's position and the player's characteristics. So have you got a defensive-minded fullback, or have you got an attacking, forward-running fullback? Can they be linked to the personal targets of the players you're working with? Can they be associated with any prior learning that's been undertaken by that player to enhance that learning further and link the learning? The number of challenges is really important. The order in which we layer them and the language we use, particularly using "can you try to". Okay, now we're going to take a look at a specific example of a challenges template. So you can see on screen now from the slide the key trigger words associated with principles of defending. So there are 3 trigger words associated with delay, 3 associated with compactness, 2 with depth, 2 with balance, and 2 with control or restraint. So those are the learning objectives that we can select from, the key points that fit within our topic. And you can see now below that they have been divided into group, unit, and individual challenges. So for the group, can you try to decide when to press, hold, or drop? Then for the defensive unit, can you try to position the defensive line in relation to the position and pressure on the ball, as well as the striker's movement? For the midfield players, can you try to keep distances between each other consistent to prevent the opposition playing in gaps and playing forward as you move sideways across the pitch? And for the forwards or attacking players, can you try to press the ball as it travels to an opponent to force the play out wide? Individually then, the goalkeeper's challenge would be try to fill the space between the defenders and the goal. The centre-backs will be trying to be in a position where they can see the ball and man at the same time. The centre midfield players will be trying to decide whether to mark a man or the key space screening a defender. The centre midfield players will be trying to decide whether to man mark or protect the key space by screening. And the wide midfield player will be trying to provide cover when the ball is on the opposite side of the pitch. A really good example there of a challenges framework based on a particular topic. And what we'd like you to do is set a challenge for the group, a challenge for one of the units, and a challenge for 3 individual players.